Welcome back. You are watching the Connect Network on WBCW Channel 50, and we are back with international speaker, coach, and author of Trust Your Hustle and Identity Shift, Mr. Anthony Trucks. Welcome to the show, Anthony. We are so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I appreciate it.
Yes, welcome, Anthony. So welcome to Major Impact DC. Now, I know that you had spent some time in DC while playing for the Redskins. How did you enjoy your time here?
It was actually a good time. To be honest, I hadn't really traveled east much. Whenever I was growing up, I was always a West Coast guy. But going over to DC was an amazing experience. Obviously, playing football is cool, but it was great to take my wife and my son around the area. Went to go see what the whole mall was about. I thought it was like an outside mall. Like, no, it's an actual place with museums. So that the outside just no, I loved it. It was a great time there.
I'm an East Coast gal from Philly, so this is where you're speaking to my heart. And so you mentioned that you started with football and being in the NFL, but you had a major accident that was life-changing. So can you share a little bit about the accident, about what happened and the impact that had on your career?
Yeah. Well, you can call it an accident. It wasn't intentional, but the game of football, there's always the opportunity for you to get hurt, unfortunately. And so for me, I had a guy jump on my back. Actually, it was the Philadelphia Eagles, in fact, of all teams. Yeah, right. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But tore my shoulder, ended my season, eventually ended my career, and I kind of was thrust into a world beyond football, which I was not prepared for. And so it was one of the better, worst moments of my life, right? Because it's not something you hope to happen, but I believe that for me, as a fan of faith, I believe God had a different plan for me. But I needed that kind of that experience to prepare me with the intangibles, but also with what's called the pedestal to be able to go and speak the words I do now.
That is amazing. Oh, but so scary too. I would love to know more about your transition into entrepreneurship. Like, how did you do it? What were some of the steps you took?
Yeah. Well, first off, I did it accidentally, and I probably shouldn't have done it the way I did it. So, anybody else, I just dove in. It's kind of the thing. I mostly just didn't want a boss anymore. When you've done the things I did for school for so long, and I have the things I did for the sports world, like you have a boss, and they're telling you when to get up, and I'm literally where to be, when to be there, if you're late, $5,000 fines. I was like, I don't want a boss anymore. And so when I got done, I had this desire to go do my own thing, but also I really wanted to figure out how to be able to be successful at it, because you see a lot of people win and lose the whole entrepreneur journey. And I didn't know what I was doing. In fact, the first 9 months in, I was looking at bankruptcy. I had a landlord serve me with eviction notice for my gym I had opened up. And to be honest, it was just a microcosm of the world. Sooner I figured that out, the better I could get. And actually it was one of the, I'd look at it as like one of the hardest moments, because I lost my family, I lost my marriage, I lost the business at one point, like all these things fell apart. But it was something that taught me what I needed to know to get to where I am now faster.
Wow.
That's an amazing perspective.
Yeah.
What helped you make money, right? How did you start making money with this? Talk about the business element of it.
Yeah, well, part of it's just speaking, right? So I have an interesting story and I know how to tell it. That's one part of it. And I work with Amazon, PayPal, T-Mobile. We just signed Chick-fil-A. I'm going to Cancun to speak with Mako here in a couple of weeks. So I work with large companies and do some great stuff. And a lot of it's tied around, I can't just have this aspirational thing. It's got to be somewhat concrete. So the dark work we do is called a dark work experience. It's an actual 16-week process. The first 3 weeks are all set up. We structurally put in place what your life should look like later based on the small actions you'll do over time. Then we start a 90-day experience. The reason I call it experience, all of our identities are neurologically and psychologically wired in our brains. There's pathways that are connected. Something happens, you see it a certain way, you fire off a certain direction. So for me, my job is to rewire, because the way that took place was through experience. If one of you got bit by a dog and I didn't, if a dog walks in, you're up a wall, I'm like, oh, hi, dog, right? It's just experience. So if I can curate a unique experience intentionally for you and then have you subject yourself to it, by the backside, not only have you achieved something specific, you've become the kind of person who specifically achieves that kind of thing.
I know your coaching service does offer dark work, and you talk about it in your book, and I'm understanding it a bit, but what exactly is dark work and why is it so important?
Dark work is the unseen, unsexy, misunderstood, ridiculed stuff that all of us experience. This whole show exists right now because of things that no one has seen you guys do in the background, that you've toiled over, you've argued over. There's been long nights clicking buttons like, how does this system work, right? But that's the kind of stuff that allows you to show up in what's called defining moments, with that mentality of, oh, I've done too much work in the dark to lose this in the light. And you fight different in the moments that matter. So dark work's essentially you tucking away and saying, I'm going to do this to develop the skill set and the brazenness to deploy that skill set when it's time. Unfortunately, most people only make these changes in one of two ways: on demand, their choice, or when crap hits the fan. For most people, crap hits the fan. I got to scurry off and figure it. Whereas I go, no, no, no. Let's not wait for something to go wrong. Let's wait for something to go right because I chose for it to take place. So when we kind of settle into these spaces, a lot of visioning that takes place of what does it actually look like, touch, feel, taste, emotionally connect to. We trickle it back to things you'll do. So over time through the experiences, you'll create that mentality and you'll wake up one day in this moment, defining moment and go, no, no, no. I have done way too much to lose this in the light.
Lastly, I wanted to talk about something that people can do right now, because this show is about making a major impact and we want people to experience a change. So what is one thing that you think we all can do right now to make a shift happen?
Big thing is drop the ego. It's called EGO, everyone's greatest obstacle. We will actively tell people like, oh, I'm not perfect. But the moment something shows up that you can be able to say, I'm not perfect at, the wall goes up. Oh, I got this. I'm okay. I don't need any help. Right. And we do that. And so for a lot of us, we never give ourselves permission to improve or give anybody a permission to help us improve. So for me, the biggest thing is like where you find that first poke at your ego, stop, breathe it in for a second. And then just for a moment, entertain the idea without giving yourself a definitive to accept it. Just entertain the idea. Maybe they're right. Now, if they're right, accept it. If not, shun it at that point. But don't let the ego stop you from the good message coming in.
Oh,
that's good.
That's a good one.
Being self-aware. Yes.
Yes.
Self-aware.
Oh,
Wow,
that's a good one.
Just so many gems today, big gems. So thank you so much for sharing with us. We'd all love to know, and I'm sure our audience as well, what is the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, Instagram at Anthony Trucks. Fastest, best way to find me.
Okay. Well, y'all get to follow in ASAP. Okay.
Yes, Anthony, thank you so much. And one thing I know that everybody appreciates is your transparency, saying in the beginning I didn't do very well. In the beginning I had some dark days, but I just kept on going. Super valuable. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. So guys, don't go anywhere. So when we come back from these commercials, we have more major impact for you coming soon.